If you're here because you want to save your marriage, then I need you to pause for a moment and ask yourself one question. Why did you get married in the first place? I'm not talking about the wedding, the plans, or the timing. I'm talking about the reason, the purpose, the why behind it all. Because somewhere along the way, we stop asking that question. We forget. We get busy. We start to focus more on the what and the how. What's not working, how they've disappointed us, without ever returning to the deeper reason we said yes in the first place. And when we lose the why, the relationship starts to drift. Most people think saving a marriage starts with fixing problems or solving conflicts. But the truth is, it starts with remembering. Remembering why you chose each other, why you believed in this relationship, why it mattered so much that you stood in front of people and promised forever. Because until you reconnect with that purpose, every solution is just a temporary bandage. If you're trying to save your marriage, if you're wondering where things went wrong or how to get back what you once had, I want you to pause and ask yourself something simple yet powerful. Why did you get married in the first place? Not the surface answers, not because we were in love, not because it was the next step, but the deeper why. What did marriage mean to you back then? What did you believe it would give you? What were you hoping for? It's easy to forget. Life moves fast. The days blur into weeks, the weeks into years. Responsibilities pile up. Bills, kids, work, stress. They all crowd in and take up space that once belonged to the two of you. And slowly, almost without noticing, we stop asking that fundamental question. We start focusing on what's missing, what's broken, what's not working. We start seeing each other through the lens of problems rather than possibilities. But if you don't remember why you chose each other, if you don't reconnect with the purpose that brought you together, every attempt to fix things will feel like putting out fires without knowing how they started. Because the truth is, you didn't get married just to have someone to live with. You didn't get married because it was convenient or practical, even if that's part of it now. You got married because at some deep level, this person made you feel something you couldn't feel on your own. Maybe it was safety. Maybe it was excitement. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the belief that together you could build something bigger than yourselves. Whatever it was, that why mattered. It was the foundation under your promises. And if you're going to save this marriage, you have to go back to it. Ask yourself, back then, what did I see in them? What did they bring out in me? What did we dream about? What did we say we'd never lose? Because here's the thing. Couples don't fall apart because they stop loving each other. They fall apart because they stop remembering what love looked like when it was new. They stop tending to the reason they chose each other in the first place. They stop nurturing the purpose that made all the effort feel worthwhile. Maybe your why was simple. You wanted to build a family. Or you wanted a partner to walk through life with. Or you felt seen and understood in a way no one else had ever made you feel. Maybe you felt inspired by their ambition or comforted by their kindness. Maybe you believed they made you better. Whatever your why was, I promise you, it wasn't trivial. It wasn't random. And it's still in there, even if it's been buried under years of frustration or disappointment. Saving a marriage doesn't start with trying to fix all the problems at once. It starts with remembering why you're fighting for it in the first place. If you can't answer that, if you can't articulate what's worth saving, you'll always feel like you're working uphill. But if you can reconnect to that why, if you can remind yourselves what brought you together, you'll find something powerful. The problems don't feel as insurmountable. The conflicts don't feel as permanent. Because now you're not just fixing something that's broken, you're protecting something that matters. And here's what's beautiful. Your why doesn't have to stay the same. It can evolve. Maybe the reason you married them at 25 isn't exactly the reason you need them now at 40. That's okay. In fact, that's necessary. Love grows. People change. Purposes shift. But what doesn't change is the need for a why. Every marriage needs a North Star, a reason to keep showing up even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when the feelings aren't as easy to access as they once were. So before you look for strategies or solutions, before you read another book or attend another seminar, go back to the beginning, sit quietly, reflect honestly. Why did you choose them? Why did they choose you? Why did you believe this marriage was worth building? Because once you reconnect with that why, you'll stop looking for the exit and you'll start looking for the way forward. And that's where hope begins. One of the biggest mistakes we make in relationships, especially in marriage, is thinking that listening simply means staying quiet while the other person talks. If we think if we're not interrupting, if we're nodding along, if we're waiting for our turn to speak, we're being good listeners. But the truth is, most of us aren't really listening. We're preparing our response. We're defending ourselves in our head. We're filtering their words through our own assumptions, our own fears, our own perspective. We're hearing the words, but we're not understanding the meaning behind them. Listening isn't hearing, it's understanding. And that's a very different thing, because understanding requires something much deeper than just sitting silently. It requires curiosity, it requires humility, it requires a willingness to step outside of your own experience and step into theirs, even if you don't agree with it, even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if it feels uncomfortable. When your partner speaks, they're not just giving you information, they're showing you their world. They're giving you access to their hopes, their insecurities, their frustrations, their dreams. And if you're only listening at the surface, you're going to miss it. You'll hear the complaint, but you'll miss the need underneath. You'll hear the anger, but you'll miss the hurt. You'll hear the silence, but you'll miss the fear hiding inside it. That's why so many arguments in marriage feel like the same fight over and over again. It's not because you're bad at solving problems. It's because you're solving the wrong problem. You're addressing the symptom, not the root. And until you're willing to listen with the goal of understanding, not winning, not fixing, not defending, you'll keep circling the same issues without ever getting to the heart of them. Listening to understand means asking, what are they really trying to tell me? It means putting down your agenda long enough to make space for theirs. It means resisting the urge to correct, to explain, to justify, and instead simply saying, tell me more. It means sitting with their discomfort without rushing to erase it, because sometimes what your partner needs most isn't a solution. It's validation. It's to know that what they feel makes sense to you, that you're not dismissing it, that you're not minimizing it, that you're willing to stay with them in it, even if you can't change it. We all want to be understood. We all want to feel seen. And when that doesn't happen in a marriage, we start to close off. We stop sharing. We stop trusting that we'll be heard. And that's when distance begins to grow. But something powerful happens when you truly listen to understand. Defenses come down. Walls soften. The conversation shifts from me versus you to us figuring this out together. Suddenly it's not about blame. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about connection. And connection is what holds a marriage together when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Think back to the early days of your relationship. Do you remember how closely you listened? How curious you were about their thoughts, their feelings, their stories. You weren't listening to win back then. You weren't listening to defend. You were listening because you genuinely wanted to know them. You wanted to understand their world. And that curiosity built intimacy. It built trust. Somewhere along the way we lose that. We get comfortable. We assume we know everything there is to know. But people are constantly changing. Your partner isn't the same person they were 5 years ago or even last year. And if you stop listening, you stop discovering. If you stop discovering, you stop growing together. Saving a marriage doesn't always require a grand gesture or a dramatic breakthrough. Sometimes it simply requires this: slow down, be quiet, pay attention. Listen not to reply, but to understand. Listen as if you're meeting them for the first time. Listen as if their heart is something precious you've been entrusted to hold carefully. Because when we feel understood, we feel safe. When we feel safe, we open up. And when we open up, love has room to grow again. And one of the most damaging habits we bring into marriage is keeping score. It's subtle at first. We tell ourselves we're just noticing. I cleaned the kitchen 3 times this week. I picked up the kids yesterday. I'm the one who always plans date night. And little by little, without meaning to, we start keeping a mental tally of everything we do. We count every effort, every sacrifice, every time we showed up when maybe they didn't. And once we start counting, it's almost impossible to stop. But here's the truth. The moment you start keeping score, you're no longer playing with your partner, you're playing against them. And in a marriage, if one person loses, both people lose. Because marriage isn't a competition. It's not a game where points are awarded for effort or where fairness is measured by perfect equality. It's a partnership. And partnership is about we, not me. When we keep score, what we're really saying is, I've done more, I've given more, I care more. We start to see our partner not as a teammate, but as someone who's not holding up their end of the deal. And once we're in that mindset, resentment creeps in. We begin to interpret everything through the lens of unfairness. Suddenly, every small mistake feels bigger. Every unmet expectation feels intentional. Every shortcoming feels like proof that we're giving more than we're getting. But love doesn't work like that. Love isn't transactional. It's not about trading favors or measuring effort. It's about giving freely, willingly, generously, not because your partner deserves it every day, but because you chose them. And real love means showing up, even on the days when it feels like you're giving more. Of course, that doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It doesn't mean one person carries all the weight while the other coasts. But it does mean shifting your mindset from what am I owed to how can I love better? Because here's the irony. The more we focus on what we're not getting, the less we give. And the less we give, the more distant the relationship becomes. It's a downward spiral. Think about it. When you fell in love, you weren't keeping score. You didn't care who texted first, who planned the date, who sacrificed more time. You just wanted to be there. You just wanted to give. And that willingness to give without counting the cost, that's what built trust. That's what created closeness. That's what made love feel effortless. But somewhere along the way, life got busy. Responsibilities piled up. Disappointments happened. And instead of talking openly about our needs, we started tallying them. Instead of asking for support, we started counting all the ways we weren't supported. And the more we counted, the more we felt unseen, unappreciated, alone. The way forward is simple, but not easy. Stop keeping score. Let go of the tally. Release the need to win. Focus instead on the health of the relationship, not on whether you're ahead. Because a healthy marriage doesn't mean everything is 50/50 every day. Some days it's 80/20. Some days it's 100/0. Some days you'll carry more, some days they will, and that's okay. Love balances out over time when both people stay committed to showing up no matter what the scoreboard says. And if you feel like you're giving more than you're getting, talk about it, not from a place of blame, but from a place of vulnerability. Say, I'm feeling tired. Say, I'm feeling unseen. Invite your partner into the conversation rather than punishing them with silent resentment. Because a marriage can't thrive under competition. It thrives under compassion. At the end of the day, no one wins when you keep score. You don't want to be right, you want to be close. You don't want to prove a point, you want to protect the partnership. So stop counting, start connecting. Let love be something you give, not something you trade. Because love isn't about who's doing more. It's about never forgetting you're on the same team. We grow up thinking that vulnerability is dangerous. We're taught to protect ourselves, to stay guarded, to never show too much of what we really feel. Somewhere along the way, we start believing that if we're too open, too honest, too exposed, we'll get hurt. We start believing that vulnerability is a risk. But the truth is, in marriage, vulnerability isn't the risk, it's the glue. It's the very thing that holds two imperfect, messy human beings together. Without vulnerability, there's no real connection. Without vulnerability, we're just two people performing roles, managing appearances, playing it safe. And sure, maybe things look fine on the outside. Maybe the conversations stay polite. Maybe the house stays in order. But underneath it all, there's a growing distance. A quiet loneliness, a feeling that even though we're living side by side, we're not really known. Because being truly known requires the courage to be seen exactly as we are. Not the polished version, not the strong, put-together version, but the real version. The version that doubts, the version that struggles, the version that sometimes feels insecure or scared or unsure. That's the version your partner fell in love with, even if they didn't see all of it right away. That's the version they want to love, if only you'll let them. But vulnerability is hard, especially when we've been hurt, especially when trust has been broken, especially when we've spent years building walls to protect ourselves. And yet, if you want to save your marriage, if you want to bring it back to life, those walls have to come down. Not all at once, not recklessly, but little by little, brick by brick. Vulnerability sounds like, I'm scared I'm not enough for you. It sounds like, I feel lonely, even when we're in the same room. It sounds like, I'm struggling and I don't know how to fix it. It's the willingness to let your partner see what's really going on beneath the surface, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels risky. Because the risk isn't in showing them. The real risk is what happens when you don't. When we hide our fears, they grow. When we hide our pain, it hardens into resentment. When we hide our needs, they turn into unmet expectations that we never voiced. And then we punish our partner for not meeting them. Vulnerability breaks that cycle. Vulnerability is what turns a fight into a conversation. It's what turns silence into healing. It's what turns distance into closeness again. It's easy to confuse vulnerability with weakness, but in truth, it takes strength. It takes strength to admit, I need you. It takes strength to say, I was wrong. It takes strength to confess, I don't have it all figured out. And when you do, something beautiful happens. Your partner doesn't pull away, they lean in. They feel invited, they feel trusted, they feel needed. And that trust, that closeness, that openness, that's the glue that holds a marriage together through the hardest seasons. We often wait for our partner to go first. We wait for them to open up, to apologize, to be vulnerable. But if both people are waiting, no one moves. Someone has to go first. Someone has to take that first step and say, I'm willing to be seen. I'm willing to let you in. And yes, that's scary. But it's also the only way forward. You can't build intimacy without vulnerability. You can't rebuild trust without vulnerability. You can't heal what's broken without vulnerability. It's the bridge that reconnects hearts that have drifted apart. And once you cross that bridge, once you've shown your heart and your partner receives it with grace, something shifts. The relationship softens, the defenses lower, the love deepens. So if you've been holding back, if you've been afraid to let them see the real you, remember this, vulnerability isn't the thing that breaks love, it's the thing that builds it. It's not the weakness that destroys trust, it's the courage that restores it. Vulnerability is the glue. And when you're willing to show up with your whole heart, cracks and all, you give your marriage the chance to become stronger than it ever was before. We often think love has to be proved with big moments, a fancy dinner after a fight, a grand romantic gesture after a mistake, a heartfelt apology when things have already fallen apart. But the truth is, marriages aren't built or saved by the occasional grand apology. They're built by small, consistent gestures, repeated every single day. The problem with relying on grand apologies is that they only come after the damage is done. They're reactive, not proactive. They're about fixing what's broken rather than preventing the break in the first place. And while it's good to say sorry, while it's necessary to own up to mistakes, an apology can't erase the pattern that led to the hurt. It can't replace the small moments of attention, care, and kindness that we're missing along the way. Think about it like this. Trust is like a bank account. Every small, thoughtful gesture, asking how their day was, holding their hand, making them coffee, sending a kind text, those are deposits. And over time, those deposits build up a sense of safety, love, and connection. But every time we dismiss their feelings, forget to check in, break a promise, or stop showing up in small ways, we make a withdrawal. A grand apology might feel like a big deposit, but if the account's been overdrawn for too long, it won't be enough to bring it back to balance. It's the daily deposits that matter most. It's the quiet consistency that builds trust over time. Small gestures say, I see you. They say, I'm paying attention. They say, you matter to me, even when life is busy, even when things aren't perfect. And those small gestures don't have to be dramatic or expensive. It could be leaving a note on the bathroom mirror. It could be turning off your phone at dinner. It could be simply saying thank you for something you've taken for granted. The irony is, the more consistently we show up in small ways, the less we need grand apologies, because small gestures prevent the slow erosion of closeness. They prevent resentment from taking root. They remind our partner that they're not invisible, that we're still in this together, that love isn't just a feeling we had when we got married, it's an action we choose over and over again. When we stop making those small efforts, it doesn't always happen with a fight or a crisis. Sometimes it happens quietly. We start talking less, we touch less, we assume they already know how we feel. We get comfortable, we get distracted, and before we realize that the space between us grows, not because of one big betrayal, but because of 1,000 small neglects. And then when the distance feels undeniable, we panic. We try to make up for it with one big gesture, a trip, a gift, dramatic apology. But by then, our partner doesn't need a grand moment. They need to know we're willing to show up every day, not just on the days we're scared we're losing them. Consistency beats intensity every time. Love isn't proven in the grand gesture, it's proven in the daily choice to care, the choice to listen, the choice to stay curious, the choice to notice, the choice to say, I love you, even when it's ordinary. And if you want to save your marriage, start with the small things. Start with the things you did when you were falling in love. Start with the things that made them feel special before life got busy. Start with the things you stopped doing because you assumed they didn't matter anymore. Because they do matter. More than you know. Don't wait until things are broken to try to fix them with an apology. Build something so strong, so steady, so full of daily love that it doesn't break so easily in the first place. Because in the end, it's not the big moments that hold a marriage together. It's the small, quiet, consistent ones that no one else sees, but that your partner will never forget. It's so easy to look across the table and see everything your partner needs to change. If they were more patient, if they communicated better, if they appreciated you more, if they finally stopped doing that one thing that's been driving you crazy for years. We tell ourselves that if they would just fix their behavior, the relationship would be better. And maybe it's true. Maybe there are real things they need to work on. But here's the hard truth. You don't fix a marriage by fixing your partner. You fix it by growing yourself. It's human nature to want to shift the responsibility, to focus on what the other person is doing wrong. But when we spend all our energy trying to change someone else, we miss the only person we actually have control over, ourselves. Growth starts here, healing starts here, change starts here. And the more we focus inward, the more power we have to influence the relationship without force, without blame, without resentment. Because here's the thing, people don't change when they're criticized into it, they change when they're inspired into it. And nothing is more inspiring than seeing the person you love take ownership of their own growth. Nothing is more attractive than someone who's willing to ask, how can I be better? How can I love better? How can I show up differently? That kind of humility, that kind of accountability creates space for both people to evolve. When you focus on growing yourself, you shift the dynamic. Instead of pointing fingers, you turn inward. Instead of waiting for them to step up, you step up. Instead of demanding more, you become more. And that doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior or accepting less than you deserve. It means recognizing that no relationship can rise above the maturity of the people in it. And the more you grow, the more capacity you have to love, to forgive, to communicate, to set boundaries, to lead with grace. We all bring our wounds into marriage. We all carry insecurities, fears, old patterns we learned long before we met our partner. And it's tempting to think those wounds will heal once they treat us better, once they finally understand us, once they meet our needs perfectly. But no one else can heal what we refuse to face ourselves. No one else can do the inner work for us. If you want a better marriage, become a better listener. Not just to your partner, but to yourself. Listen to the stories you tell in your head, the assumptions you make, the triggers that keep showing up. Ask yourself, where do I need to grow? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's learning to communicate without defensiveness. Maybe it's letting go of the need to be right. Maybe it's setting healthier boundaries, not from anger, but from self-respect. When you start doing that work, something shifts. You stop reacting from old patterns. You stop expecting your partner to meet needs you haven't even communicated. You stop making their growth a prerequisite for your happiness. You take back responsibility for your own peace, your own joy, your own fulfillment. And ironically, that makes you a safer, more loving, more attractive partner. We think fixing the marriage is about finding the right solution out there, the right counselor, the right book, the right strategy. But more often it starts with looking in the mirror and asking, what part of this do I own? What part of this can I change today, regardless of whether they change or not? That's leadership. That's love. A marriage is not 50/50, it's 100/100. Each person bringing their whole self to the table. Each person taking full responsibility for their half of the relationship. And even if your partner isn't ready to do their work yet, your growth creates momentum. Your growth creates a new environment. Your growth shows what's possible. Because at the end of the day, you can't force someone else to grow. You can't force someone else to change. But you can grow. And when you grow, you give your marriage its best chance to grow with you. Not because you fixed your partner, but because you became the kind of partner who invites, inspires, and leads with love.